Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Simple Minds Sports Show. We are World Cup fever heading into the finals, and the GOAT is on his way there. And of course, as you know by now, France is not. But this evening we'll be talking about, of course, a little World Cup will sneak in. The Celtics offseason, the Red Sox are somehow back in the lineup. We've got 10 questions from a guy named Rob. This or that, also Simplest Minds of the Week. Welcome to Simple Minds Sports Show, Friday Rewind Live, Tuesday here, July 15th. Welcome to the show. I got something troubling on my mind. I got something troubling on my mind. I got something. Boy, I thought we had a new host there for a second. That would have been a great get. It would have been a great get.
That would have been great. The biggest one of our careers.
Yeah. Second to Rambling Ruth.
True.
Yeah, the GOAT. I know 10 questions from a guy named Rob. We've got 10 questions plus. We've got a little World Cup action in there. We do want to get the reaction. We had Messi in Argentina coming out victorious today in a hard-fought match on the pitch out there, Raymond. England went down a day after your beloved France lost 0-2, which obviously everyone can concur that Mbappe did not score in that match, which was unfortunate to see for you, and I'm really sorry for that. I am.
They're not.
So
no, you're not.
We'll get to that. We'll certainly get to the soccer or the football, if you would, in the program. I do want to start off a little Celtics. I know you guys have been talking about the Jaylen Brown trade the last couple shows, specifically last show and the return. We have some more. What's that, man?
I said, wow, he does listen.
I'm a professional. There has been some news trickling in here, as it generally does when you have a superstar jettison out of town. Per Boston, the way that Boston likes to do it is they jettison out their superstar who they've been building up their entire career, and then immediately start tearing them down, shitting on them to make the deal look better. I don't feel like it's been that bad with Jaylen Brown, who, if you're thinking about it, a decade, really a pillar in Boston sports. They would have to work hard to drag that guy down. I think, Bobby, he's doing a lot of it himself. And now that he's out of town and we saw how it ended, and we're seeing a little bit more how the sausage was made this year, feels like he was working his way out of town from Jump Street. Feels like his chemistry with Mazzula and the way they wanted to play. And we have been commenting on this. A lot of people have been commenting on they had to get away from the three ball. First couple games, they started out 0-3, if you remember, and then Jaylen Brown kind of just started doing his own thing, and the rest of the team kind of followed in his footpath for the season, and it turned out to be a successful regular season. But these little sprinkles of comments from Jaylen Brown about, I'm not an analytical player, but I play ball. If you remember at the All-Star break, he tweeted out a comparison of the stats between the team last year and the team this year, and talked about how great the team was doing, and how proud he was of his team at the deadline. And then, of course, after getting bounced in the first round, losing a 3-1 lead to the Philadelphia 76ers in Game 7 at home, obviously remember him talking about how much of that was his favorite season and how much he loved that season, kind of refused to talk about Jason Tatum. So I'll stop there. I'll stop there before the juicier stuff. Any comment on revisionist history now looking back, and the way that Jaylen Brown kind of handled the season, even through the success?
Good, Raymond. Just basically, he didn't want to play Mazzula ball, like you said, Rich. It was openly about that. It came in a team meeting. I don't want to be part of the Mazzula 3 ball. Like, I want to start driving, getting my own shots in that I'm more comfortable with. So, yeah, now that you look back, you can see, like, there was a rift there. Obviously, the whole saying that this was his favorite season now would make sense now, because, like, obviously he was the guy. He was the Batman, not the Robin. And now he's going to be in Philadelphia, where he's not going to be the Batman again. He's going to be playing that Robin role. So it should be interesting to see how fast that dumpster fire happens.
So let me add a couple of juicy pieces here for you to chew on, Bobby. This was brought to my attention, either reading it or listening to the radio. Sorry, I don't have the credit for it. But later in the season, as Jason Tatum came back after a game against the Charlotte Hornets in which they won, his trainer Jrue Hanlen, who's a pretty famous trainer at this point in his own right, tweeted out that the Celtics have a very large winning percentage, something like 68%. Let's call it 69%.
Nice.
There you go. When Tatum gets 33% usage rate, Celtics went on to win that game. The next game, Jason Tatum sat out. Jaylen Brown played, had a high usage percentage. They got smoked, and he stunk. Again, there's just these little tidbits coming out. And then this week, Bomani Jones, who I despise, by the way. I don't know if you have an opinion on him. I think he sucks.
The guy with the big piggy nail. He used to be around the horn.
I don't know.
He's just someone with terrible opinions and just says dumbass shit.
I don't think I've ever heard him have an opinion that doesn't have to do about race. I think that's his whole thing. And he made a comment that Jason Tatum should have been standing up for Jaylen Brown more during this whole process, of which Jaylen Brown liked, which in our day and age is basically a cosign to that opinion on the social media. You pair that with Jaylen Brown's comments immediately after getting traded, saying he didn't think he got respected enough by Brad Stevens in the whole ordeal, which, shocker, Jaylen Brown doesn't think he got enough respect. Let me pertinently ask you this question. How big of a rift do you think there was between Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown here towards the end?
Huge.
I think they had a professional relationship, but I don't think that they particularly enjoyed playing with one another. I think they're completely different personalities. And I think that it's clear that at this point that Jaylen Brown hated the coach, and it seems that Tatum is fine with him.
Right. Huge.
Oh, yeah, huge. Basically, I don't think he was going to either or's birthday party. I don't think they were inviting one another. I don't think they went out and did things on their own unless it was like a team thing, like they are required to. So, yeah, I just think there was a rift, and we should have seen it a mile away.
I don't think Tatum was getting invited on Brown's Twitch stream.
Mm-mm.
No, never showed up.
Nope.
Tatum, in his own right, took a day or two, but did come out and say, very positive things about Jaylen Brown after the trade, in his own professional right. He wasn't glowing, but said all the right things. Here's my take on it. I think Jaylen Brown always wanted the spotlight, always thought he deserved the spotlight, was always second fiddle, and that's why he was always aggrieved by it. He got that taste of the spotlight this year, took advantage of it, and did not want to give it up. And I think I mentioned this on the show. The second we heard those comments on his Twitch after they got bounced in the first round, to me, it felt like he was putting pressure on the franchise to move him. It just felt like that because it was so weird the way that he was speaking. And yeah, I mean, Tatum and Brown, I don't think we're ever very good friends off the court. That doesn't really matter. I think this season it got to a point where Jaylen Brown wanted to play a certain style of basketball. Jason Tatum came back, and you could see it in his comments then, right? You saw it in his comments after the after the finals in Game 7. I don't have it in front of me, but he said basically, this team played free and loose this season. We played this way in Game 7, close to what we were playing all year, and I'm proud of our guys. If we had some shots in the fourth quarter, we could have won. By the way, if you remember that fourth quarter in Game 7, they just fucking blew it. They had 2 or 3 wide open threes that they could have made, Jaylen Brown being one of them, and they just choked. And he just talked about the way that he wanted to play. So I think on the court, and then we have some statistics to back this up, but on the court, that relationship had fractured. I don't think they were going to be able to come back and go back to the way that they're playing. And I have some opinions on the way that it'll look without Jaylen Brown next to Jason Tatum. That may be positive, or maybe I'm shining a rosy glass color on it because this is what we have to look forward to now. But, I don't know. Dare I say Jaylen Brown was getting in the way of a little bit of peak Tatum? Maybe. We'll kind of see. But I do think there's enough evidence to say that the on-court chemistry of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum did not meet the expectations of their talent. We've talked about this, and we blamed it on Mazzula, which I do still think is the number one problem.
Damn right.
However, when you have 2 top 10 players in the NBA on your roster, you should not lose in the first round. You should not lose to a Jimmy Butler Heat. You should not lose to Embiid Sixers. You should not lose 3 out of 4 seasons to lesser teams. You should not lose to the Knicks. Even with Tatum going down, they're losing that series anyway. So you won 1 year with Jrue Holiday and Al Horford, and to a lesser extent Porzingis, and a rising Derek White, and a close to 6-man Peyton Pritchard. You had all the gel parts, and Jrue Holiday and Horford as big pillar veterans maintaining a good chemistry there, and it worked in a really easy field to the championship. But the sample size of those guys in their prime is they came up short on the court. And if you just want to talk about that, I'm okay with them moving on from Jaylen Brown and moving in a different direction. And, we'll get to what that looks like now and the return and all that. I know you guys have talked about it, but do you have any comments on that? Just the fact that Jaylen Brown was moved. I think they just made that decision on the court in February, probably. Like, we're not moving on with this guy. He's not playing our style of basketball.
I think for basketball reasons, 100% that it was the time to do this. I think also the league has spoken, and the Celtics, I think that they were forced into paying them that money. They didn't think that he was worth that money. And I think the league spoke and said that he's not worth that money in that contract because they did not get the return that they thought that they would. So I think that it shows some justification on the Celtics' part that they were trying to move off him.
It also depends, too, on what you look at for the return, because there's some reports that they were going to get more, but they just declined on it. Like the Giannis. Like Giannis could have been coming here, but he wanted the extension, and the Celtics weren't going to sign that extension for him. So it all depends on how you look at it. Yes, maybe the return.
They wouldn't have had the optionality, Raymond. That would not have given them optionality.
Gotcha.
I think optionality is spelled CHEAP is how the Celtics are spelling optionality at this point, which I'd like to get to. But you brought up a good transition, Bobby. There's only one question unanswered for me at this point, and it's the timing of the trade. But the return, I think to your point, we're starting to understand why the return what it was what it was, and it's because the NBA did not look at Jaylen Brown as a player that as a type of player on that contract that is going to demand the $140 million extension. Nobody wants that player at that money for 5 more years. The league spoke, and that's why they got it. And never mind, and the contract is certainly the contract, but in the analytical age, and everybody's been hearing about it, and I have some statistics here. Jaylen Brown is just not very good in the nerd world. It just flat out is a borderline very good player. Not a great player. He's on the very good scale. Claude helped me out, pointing out 5 key analytical points.
We'll switch to Claude now. Good for you.
Me and Claude are very good friends now. The analytical case against Jaylen Brown, says Claude. Number 1, volume scorer, not an efficient one. He's put up 28.7 points this year, but his true shooting is sitting around the 49th percentile league wide, which is not what you're looking for. His shot profile does not match a quote modern wing. His 3-point rate ranks around the 20th percentile. He's not generating efficient looks from 3 at the volume you'd expect from a max level wing. His turnover prone relative to usage. Again, a lot of nerd speak here. But his turnover metric grades out to 42nd percentile. That's a big one.
Next time you ask Claude, can you tell him to put it with less fucking nerd jargon? All right.
I'll try.
Yeah.
I'll try.
Please.
It takes a while to hone in on these robots. 42nd percentile is not good at anything that you do. That's less than 50%. That's not what you're looking for, especially the guy who has the ball a lot. Well, I only know this because the nerds gave it to me and I put in the email. That's an extra 2 to 3.5 possessions per game. Damn. So call that a 6-9 point swing in an NBA game. That's a big deal. Defense does not match the reputation. I've been saying this for years. People have been calling Jaylen Brown the best 2-way guard in the NBA. I have never thought that he's that great a defender. When he locks in, he can be a good on-ball defender against a
fat Luka.
Against the right opponent. Yep. I have watched Jaylen Brown get burnt backdoor so many damn times in his career. I always thought that was a little bit of an.
How do you look against Embiid? Remember when he was going one-on-one with Embiid? being what was that, game 7?
He looked better than Luke Garza. I'll give him that.
Wow, Jesus Christ. Bobby would have looked better.
Well, I mean,
I'm a fine defender. I won Defensive Player of the Year. I'll have you mind. Suck it, Raymond.
Defensive Player of the Year and fucking
I won it.
Hartford University co-ed. The defensive stats for
shut him
Jaylen
down,
Brown.
McVee. I shut him down.
Defensive stats not there, and his impact metrics don't live up for it. You'll see in the email here. I put him directly against Tatum as well. This year's stats versus Tatum's last full year stats. Brown beats him in the points and efficiency. But if you just go to this overall impact statistic that kind of groups it all together, Jason Tatum's in the 99th percentile and Jaylen Brown's in the 87th. So, I think that he is a volume scorer that does not necessarily make his teammates around him better. They were playing different basketball with him on the court than with him than he was on the court. I think we've all seen the statistics that Jason Tatum is like 37-8 without him or something like that. And he plays like 780 ball without Jaylen Brown. They play like 680 ball when they're together. And that's just not the case for Brown. So I think
the championship run, they had 12 games without Jaylen Brown. They went 12-0 without him.
Thank you. So I think that again, just to reiterate, the on the court case has been made. I think that because the NBA is so analytical, the return can be, I won't say justified. I will say explained, especially if they think Paul George can still fit like an Al Horford role when he was at the end of his rope with the Celtics and they limit his minutes and he comes in and plays his role. So I get all that. I fine. Okay. It was really wildly disappointing and like rage filled to see Paul George in exchange for Jaylen Brown. But if the market spoke and the league spoke and they just don't like this player, then okay. I don't know what else you'd like to do for that. The reported ask for Jaylen Brown from the Sixers. I know I put it in here. Does anyone have it in front of him?
Yeah, it was the original ask was Edgecombe, Paul George, and 5 first-round picks.
Right, which I think they were asking for 4 first-round picks from everybody, and they didn't get it. The Clippers got it for Kawhi, and they didn't get it for Brown. I think that speaks way more towards Brown than the Celtics organization.
Oh, hell yeah.
Now, I've been rambling, so let me ask this question. Why did they do it now? And more importantly, I think, could they have gotten over the on-court thing, or was it just more about money?
I'll go. They did it now because they didn't want to pay him that extension and have a cunty Jaylen Brown in the locker room for a whole year because he's not getting his money or that extension, and that would be the talking point for the Celtics all season long and driving a rift between the two of them even more. And then if they started playing like shit like last year, because Tatum's back, he won't be getting the ball as much as he was, and he wouldn't be the star of the show. So it would drive down his price. So I think that's the whole reason why. And I think there was also, too, that if he was on the Celtics roster after a certain date in July, then he was owed another percentage of a contract or whatever it was. So I think they had to get rid of him before that date. So that's why it all came together that fast.
I think it's about internal turmoil and the money. I think it did come to a point where Jaylen Brown couldn't exist in that scenario anymore, and they're citing the modern landscape of the NBA where they're going to have one star and supplemental depth all around it, and they just didn't want to pay the money to that player. I'm going to rose-colored glasses. They're willing to pay money, but not to that player. They would spread it out.
Yeah, I think the timing is Brad Stevens decided he understood the market. He knew what he was going to get for him. They looked at Paul George, but I think a big deciding factor was the contract. They're going to get off Paul George's contract. They're going to try really hard not to carry that next year. You're going to be an expiring deal next year. You're going to try and trade it, get some trade exception, whatever else. They were not like to your point, Ray. They had Giannis. It was not because they wouldn't give up Hugo Gonzalez. It was because they would not give him an extra year and an extra 5% of the cap. That's why. Because in 2 years, they have to get under a certain number so they don't pay luxury tax. They're going to tell us whether that's the answer or not in 2 years, but I'm willing to bet it is. I'm willing to bet they position themselves financially to not pay a high tax on that salary cap, and carrying a large bloated salary like that past this 2-year window was just not feasible for them financially. They are working under a new financial burden. Brad Stevens is. And I think that has been made pretty evident in the last 2 off seasons. And Jaylen Brown was just a victim of that. And everything we just talked about, his time had come to an end here on and off the court. The last point I'll make on that money thing, that the Celtics are just now, I'll call them cheap, but I more realistically, it's a new financial mandate. We'll see what the actual numbers look like. Nick Cattles put out a Instagram or tweet or something, said the Celtics are open to making trades, but want to surround Tatum with depth and high-end role players as opposed to another star to split shots with. So if you were in the camp like me, like you wanted to flip those stupid 76ers first rounders for a good player, a nice star player, nope. Doesn't sound like that's happening. Sounds like they are going to draft and develop and pay Jason Tatum $1 billion and hopefully get him some decent talent at cheap all around him.
There was talks about the kid from San Antonio. And the kid from New Orleans. I'm trying to look up who exactly it was.
Brandon Miller and who was the other one?
Trey Murphy.
Nope.
Trey Murphy.
No, they moved off Trey Murphy. It's another role player from New Orleans now. Like lesser known players. Like they're trying to go for the depth piece and the role players. They don't want another big name guy coming in here or a guy that's going to cost them money in the long run.
They are now currently in the private equity model of professional sports ownership, where they are going to look for high value contracts as opposed to high value players. And that's so young, cheap, distressed assets. That's what you're looking for. And we'll make them better because we're better and smarter than everybody else. Sure. Get your clocks out, Celtics fans. It's a matter of time before Jason Tatum works his way out of here. And it's a matter of time, I think, before Brad Stevens starts looking for new employment. No one wants to work in that type of environment.
Maybe that strategy works when you do have an NBA superstar in Tatum and you have a very good GM in Brad Stevens. If you had a legitimate NBA coach that wouldn't fuck the whole thing up. Maybe the strategy works.
And that wraps up the Celtics segment. Have they solved the ultimate problem? No. Joe Mazzula is still in the building. All right, there you go. Thanks for letting me get that off my chest. I've been holding that in for 2 weeks. Goddamn Celtics trade. If you're on board with us, rate, subscribe, hit the subscribe button now. If you're not on board with us, also hit the subscribe button and share it with your friends. Tell you about this. If you're with us live tonight, stick around. We got a little Red Sox talk. We got a little Red Sox in July talk. Holy shit. Sorry, Bobby.
Bobby's pumped.
The Celtics are dumb front-running pussies. This is the same team they have been for 4 years running.
Well, my worst nightmare came true. Mazzula and Mayo are friends. What the fuck? Apparently they've known each other since Virginia. They have these docking sessions where they talk about ball and managing people.
Vacation. I'm gonna quay all these. I'm gonna fucking watch them this week.
Do you say quay?
Is it not quay?
It's Q. It's Q. It's Q-U-E.